If you've been looking for an all-in-one DIY security camera system, you'll know that the marketplace is fraught with poor quality cameras, appallingly bad mobile apps, and hundreds of cloned devices. It really is a bit of a minefield out there. Now I'm going to put my hands up and say that Reolink are by far my favorite brand for security cameras, as you'll know if you've watched any of my previous reviews. And that's because, as well as just really good image quality from the cameras, which is obviously important, Reolink also has great smartphone and desktop apps, which is pretty rare. And it has a vast ecosystem that integrates well with each other. But while I love the individual cameras, I've never really been a fan of any network video recorders, to be honest. Reolink or otherwise, they've always felt a bit clunky and antiquated compared to sort of modern smartphone apps. Reolink has, however, managed to change my mind with its latest bit of kit. It's a bit of a mouthful, sorry, the RLK8-820D4-A all-in-one security camera kit. I'm James Bruce, you're watching MUO Reviews. Let's take a closer look and help you decide if this is the DIY CCTV kit for you. So the RLK8-820D4-A is an 8-channel digital network video recorder with 4 cameras included, a 2 terabyte hard drive, and it runs fully on power over Ethernet. The kit that we got really is everything you need to get started, as well as the 4 dome cameras and the actual network recorder. You'll also find mounting screws, drill templates, warning stickers, waterproof cable covers, an HDMI cable, a short network cable, a small mouse for the video recorder, as well as 4 lengths of 18 meters or 60-foot Ethernet cabling. Now the cabling supplied is nothing fancy, it's not rated for burying underground or anything like that. It looks like standard Cat5e cabling. Of course, being power over Ethernet, you only need to run this one cable to each camera. And it needn't be this particular cable if this is too short, or if you need something heavily armored for burying outdoors, or even if you want something shorter, you don't want any excess. This will still work with any kind of gigabit capable Ethernet cabling, so that's Cat5e and above. If you have a crimping tool, of course, you can also run your own cabling to your exact length. So this model actually comes with 4 of these dome cameras, but it has the capability to connect to and record from 8 channels in total. It comes with a 90-watt power supply, which should be enough for all 8, given that PoE is the standard 802.11 AF or 48 volts active. If you need more than that, they also sell a 16-port model. Or if you definitely won't need 8, then they also do a slightly cheaper model with just 4 ports. However, I would always suggest buying more capacity than you actually need. You never know what the future holds. Also, on the topic of expansion, you're not limited to 2 terabytes of storage. You can open up the video recorder and swap out the hard disk. Up to 12 terabytes, I think, is fine. So the cameras included with this kit are a fixed direction dome type camera, but they also do kits with bullet cameras or pan tilt options if you want. These models have really great quality and a reasonable field of view, but the mechanism does have a limited range of motion in which it can be installed, and you can't move them remotely. It's a fixed position once you've installed it, so it's got no motors inside to pan tilt it from the control box. So they're functionally quite basic, but in terms of image quality, you get a very impressive 8 megapixel image, which is one of the highest on the consumer market anyway. They do have night vision with infrared and a microphone, but it's one way only. There's no talkback capabilities, nor is there an on-device alarm. There's no floodlights, so you're not going to get full color night vision, just the basic black and white. If those sorts of things are features you need though, don't worry, I'll show you later how it'll work with more cameras, not just these. So you're not limited to this type of camera at all, but these are sufficient for what most people want from CCTV around the home. Mounting the cameras is easy enough though. Either use the drill template to make some pilot holes for wall plugs, or if you're going to go straight into wood or plastic, there's no need really, and then the camera itself screws straight onto this. There's a helpful guide included in the pack. It's really not difficult at all. I will say that what's very important is that if you're installing these outdoors, which they are IP66 rated for, but you absolutely do need to attach this waterproof RJ45 cover onto the Ethernet cable coming from the NVR. Then that securely attaches to here. If you don't use this, then the water will seep in and corrode the copper contacts on your cabling, or worse, on the camera itself, which won't be repairable. So do use these waterproof things. They're not there just as an added extra. You do need them. So camera's plugged in. How do you set up and view the feeds? Well, as with most Reolink products, you actually have a few methods here. The first is that there's a USB port and HDMI output on the video recorder itself. You will need that at least for the initial setup, though it's not necessary to keep that connected later if you don't want. I actually have all my PoE cabling terminating up in the loft, so I positioned the box up there, and obviously that's not really conducive to viewing a locally attached monitor. That said, I did find the interface to be remarkably modern and responsive and easy to use, which I wasn't really expecting given my previous experience with DVRs and NVRs. They tend to be a little bit antiquated, frankly, which is why I've always gone with the smartphone apps. But actually, this one, as you should be seeing now, is pretty good. You can view events, individual streams, you can cycle through them. There's a variety of layout options. It's easy to access the camera settings, etc. It's all there and easy to configure. Now, if you have an event you want to save, just open up the backup menu and select the time frame you want the recordings from. The only annoying thing here was that you can't mark events as you would, say, with a dash cam to save them and prevent them from being wiped until you have more storage. In the case where you do need to save an event, you'll need to plug in a USB storage device and download them onto that. Otherwise, they're just in the standard rotation and will be deleted in turn when the drive fills up. So you can't specifically mark an event and then save it later. You'll have to back it up straight away as soon as you want to ensure it's safe. As I said though, you have options when it comes to viewing the feeds. Once the initial setup is completed, if you don't want to use a directly attached HDMI monitor or output, that's fine. As well as the 8 ports for connecting the PoE cameras themselves, you also have one to connect the box to your own network. And once this is connected, it allows you to use both the smartphone app and the desktop app in the same way as any other Reolink cameras. You can see it running on my desktop here. In fact, both the smartphone app and the desktop app automatically discovered the device, and all I needed to do was to type in my chosen password. From there, it just works. There's no other setup to do. Now, to be clear, on a technical level, both sides of the network are isolated. So the video recorder box isn't like a switched extension for your own network. It acts as its own router. It gives out its own IP addresses to that side, to the cameras, and then it takes the feed and it makes them available on your home network side too. So, of course, with such a large 2 terabyte drive, you can opt to record continuously. I got about a week of footage from it with 6 cameras attached. Then I swapped to motion-only events, and I would suggest doing the same just because it's more efficient. This model, as indicated by the A part at the end of the 820D4-A, includes AI detection features for people or vehicles. Now, you will need to tweak that a bit, as like most on-camera device AIs, it's not the best out of the box, but you can certainly configure it. And then the sensitivity can go up or down if you're getting too many or not enough alerts. If you have the smartphone app installed, you can also enable alerts to your smartphone or to your Apple Watch. And if you don't want that, then you can just have a simple alarm from the box itself to get your attention. So personally, I mostly use the smartphone app so that I can benefit from remote access anywhere in the world with no complicated setup. It just works. And when I'm back at my desktop, I can keep the feeds open on a second monitor with this very competent Reolink desktop app. Now, this is something you really won't find from other manufacturers. Typically, they only offer a sort of natty smartphone app, and you'd usually have to look at third-party software for your desktop. But Reolink provides a cross-platform desktop app as well as the fantastic smartphone app. So again, you won't need to mess around with trying to configure third-party software, but you can if you want. All right, let's talk about expanding the system then. I mentioned that you could upgrade the hard disk, but let's say you want to add something to the box for your front door with talkback capabilities, or perhaps you have an existing Reolink Wi-Fi camera, because yes, in fact, you don't even need it to be a power over Ethernet camera. The device has 8 ports for 8 potential PoE connections, but it can also auto-discover any other cameras on your network, and it'll happily act as a recorder for that stream, as long as it's a permanently powered on camera and not one of those battery powered things. The only thing to bear in mind is that the channel limit is absolute. So you can't have 8 wired cameras over PoE and then just add in a Wi-Fi one as well, thinking that you can also record that. No, it's a maximum of 8 recording channels, regardless of if those are pulled in from the PoE ports or from elsewhere on your existing network. So do think carefully when you're choosing 4, 8 or 16 channel models. That said, there's no such limitation to the desktop software or the smartphone app, so you can have the 8 channels from the NVR box into the desktop app, and then you could have another feed from your Wi-Fi camera. It just won't be recorded through the NVR, if that makes sense. So basically it's really flexible. So in order to max out this RLK8 video recorder, I used a combination of 3 of the 4 included dome cameras, then I added 4 more, all different Reolink models that I've tested over the years. So there's the Reolink Duo model, which uses a single PoE port for power, but presents itself as 2 side-by-side streams for that sweet extra wide field of view. I used another channel for a PoE pan tilt model that I have next to a cabin in the garden, which of course is also fully controllable through this box, so you can move the camera around. Even though the included cameras don't have that feature, if you add one that does have that feature, it will still present itself and you can control it normally. I also have a Wi-Fi camera from up in my garage, so that was pulled from elsewhere on the home network and not via a power over Ethernet port. And I added an RLC510 bullet camera, which I have up by the gate, again, power over Ethernet. So that's the full 8 channel streams recording from 7 different cameras, mostly over power over Ethernet. And I'm pleased to say it's been performing wonderfully. I've been getting notifications reliably to my phone. If anyone appears anywhere on property, I know about it in less than 2 seconds. Now there's a huge range of options you can tweak for scheduled recording, sensitivity, etc. And it took me a good week or so, I'd say, to dial things into exactly how I wanted it without having to deal with false alarms. And even now, I still get massive spiders triggering as people or vehicles. That's certainly not unique to the Reolink system, but it is something you'll have to deal with. My only real suggestion for improvement on the whole Reolink ecosystem would be to get a preview of what it's seen within the notification when it pops up on your phone, or if they could make that work on the Apple Watch too, that would be amazing. Just tap on it, see what it is, and then you can dismiss it or act on it. So the Reolink RLK8-820D4 is a fantastically easy to install, complete DIY security system for both ease of use, breadth of software for support for cross-platform apps, as well as the smartphone or a locally attached HDMI monitor. It has expansion potential beyond the included 4 cameras. Even if you have an existing powered Wi-Fi camera, it'll work with that. Now, power over Ethernet is by far the best way to deal with security cameras. It just simplifies things immensely, but it can require a costly investment in suitable network switches. I think I paid about £200 for my 8-port PoE capable Unify switch. And of course, if you're then recording constantly from those cameras and you have a few, then it will eat into your home network bandwidth, constantly shifting video packets around the network. A Reolink network video recorder is the best of both worlds, really. You get the simplicity of a power over Ethernet install while isolating that bandwidth from the rest of your network, and it means you don't have to mess around with your existing infrastructure. As long as you have one spare port on your existing router, just connect that to the Reolink network video recorder and you're all set. In terms of why I always recommend Reolink, the quality of the camera feeds is obviously a huge factor. But for me, what really clinches the deal is the fact that they have really good software on both the smartphone, Mac, PC, iOS, Android. No matter where you are, no matter what device you have, you can access the feeds and the event history. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thank you to Reolink for sending this out for review and supporting the channel. As always, now do check out their full range if there's something similar that you're looking for. They do have other models, bigger models, smaller models, ones with different cameras included. so there's sure to be something that suits your budget and your exact requirements. If you have any other questions you'd like to ask about the RLK8-820D4-A that I didn't cover, please ask away in the comments and I'll try my best to answer that. Please do hit like and consider subscribing for more weekly gadget reviews, giveaways and more. From myself, James Bruce, reviews editor at makeuseof.com, and the rest of my reviews team. Until next time.